I always think my neighbors are looking at me weird when they see me out doing this. Anyway. Hi, I'm Kyle with DIY Auto Homeschool, and I have this 2010, I'm told, we'll find out here before too long, we'll verify, Ford Explorer. And it was dropped off by a friend of mine who actually has his own YouTube channel. It's on fishing. So if any of you happen to be interested in fishing and videos on fishing, go check out his channel, see if you're interested in it. I'll put a link here and in the description. But this is not how I pictured my first collaboration video going. I get to fix his truck, and he gets to go fishing, so I think I got the short end of the stick on that one. Anyway, so what happened with this, or what I'm told happened, is his wife was driving it, and the ABS and ESC traction light came on, and so she pulled over, she stopped, and then she decided she went to go try to move again, and when she tried to move again, it would not let her move. And I don't know exactly what that means, how he described it. He just said it wouldn't let her move. So I don't know if it's like wouldn't go into gear, if it, the ABS is locking up. I don't know what's going on. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to take this for a quick spin, just drive a little bit. We're going to see how it acts, and see what we find. So let's go. Oh goodness, here we go. All right, so we're gonna start this up. Get it towed here. I hate that beeping. Okay, so it starts up like a Ford. Anyway, the ABS light is on, but what we're gonna do is we're just gonna try to verify this complaint. We're gonna go forward first because we don't have much room to go backwards. Gonna go and drive. Seems to move forward, just kind of move easy, just kind of rolling forward. Let's hit the gas. Going straight backwards. It seems to be doing okay. Now we're gonna go forward and try to, I'd try to hit the gas a little bit. I'm going downhill. All right. Well, oh my goodness, excuse me. Okay, so we're gonna try to take this around the block here real quick, see what happens. Turn out here. Oh, goodness. No, that, oh my goodness, I'll put my seatbelt on so it stops beeping at us. Anyway, what that did right there is that grinded and tried to stop the vehicle, and I don't doubt at all that if it did that much worse than it did right there, that definitely probably stopped the vehicle and made it feel like it wasn't going to go forward. Anyway, so I think from the sounds of it, with the ABS light coming on, and then when I went to turn, it just sounded horrible. It sounded like it ground, sounded like it caught, like it slowed down. It's screaming something probably, I don't know. With it going straight forward, or going straight forward and back just fine. I've seen some of these have problems with the viscous coupling or coupler, but it's probably going to be something in like the bearings or the drive out at the wheels. It's probably going to be a wheel bearing, honestly. Probably going to be. So that's what we're going to do. Well, first we're going to check the codes. If we have a code for any of the wheel bearings, and the noise that I heard and the feeling kind of came from the front, it's probably going to be from the front. But if we have a code for any of the wheel bearings, we're going to lift it up and we're going to check that wheel bearing first. So let's go check our codes. Okay, so to check the codes, we're going to look for the DLC, the data link connector. It's what we use to hook up to pull codes, talk to the different modules on the system. And in most vehicles, it's just right up underneath the dash in front of the driver's seat, and some they stick it over behind the ashtray. Honda. I think the regulations dictate that it's supposed to be within arm's reach of the driver's seat, but I'm not 100% sure on that. Anyway, underneath the dash on the driver's side is where you're going to find it most of the time. And we're going to find it in this Ford right here. If I can get up underneath there and show you. That is the connector we're going to plug into. And that is what our little code reader plugs into. So let's go take a look at it. Okay, so that was the connector that we're going to plug into. And so naturally, the plug looks very similar to it. And it just sticks up on there. Now this one I believe, like most of these, it will actually, it draws power off of the vehicle because there's a power and a ground in that connector. So you don't need a battery for itself. But first, let's take this little protective sticker off. We don't have a P0420 catalyst efficiency below threshold. I mean, we might, but... So, we're gonna reach up underneath. You guys remember where that was at, and we're just gonna plug this right in. And after we plug this in, it won't, well, look, it's already got power. Look at that, it's asking me what language I speak, all that stuff. Let's see if I'll put that in. It's beeping at me, it's beeping at me. Alright, so we turn the key on and we'll let it do its thing. Is it gonna keep beeping at me? I hope not. Okay, now, a lot of different vehicles, they use different protocols for their communication, and so what this does, and a lot of these do, is they'll hook up and they'll just try all the different protocols until they find one that communicates, one works. So we're going to look at what codes we got here in the global OBD2 side. If we got 3. What in the world? How do we go to the next one? Really probably should have learned how to do this. So let me change views here so you guys can see this too. So I pressed this, assuming it meant systems, and apparently it does, or whatever it's going to get me to change. We're going to go to the ABS, and we're going to press enter. Is this your vehicle, Ford? Is this your vehicle? Yeah, well, this is a Ford, so we're going to be like, yes. So let's try to get where you guys can see it. Let's see what it says. One moment, please. One moment, please. One moment, please. Oh, would you look at that? We have a C1234. That's cute. Right front wheel speed sensor input signal missing. This is, a lot of times you'll get this when you have a bad wheel bearing or the sensor's gone bad. I'm not 100% sure if these sensors are built into the wheel bearing on these, but we're going to go take a look. This is kind of sending us right where I kind of thought we'd end up at, is looking at one of those right front wheels. One of those front wheels, not one of those right front wheels. Anyway, one of those front wheels. So basically, there's a speed sensor on each of the wheels, and it looks at the wheel speed constantly, and it compares it to each other. It's just this truck that's taking its sweet time. Get out of here. Anyway, they compare the wheel speeds to each other, and that's how they determine if a wheel is locking up. Because if it sees that you're on the brake, and it sees that one wheel speed starts to drop a lot more than all the other 3, it says, hey, that wheel's locking up, and the pump will kick on, and the valves will start working to release brake pressure from that, and then slowly start to apply it where you keep a specific amount of slip instead of 100% slip. So that's what it's saying. The speed sensor on that right front wheel is not there. It doesn't have an input. I don't know if we have. I highly doubt it for something that's this cheap. I doubt if we have the ability to look at any data. Live data. this tool does not support ABS live data. Anyway, basically for the live data, what I was going to look at is you can hook up a live data and on some of these and look at the real-time value of the front right and front left and right, right rear, right left, and you put all 4 wheel speeds up there, and then you drive and you see what the wheel speed on that right front does. And if you got nothing, then you just kind of verifies what that code is saying. But we're going to go down and we're going to actually put eyes on and tools on, and we're going to check this sensor, and we're going to see, because we're probably going to end up putting a wheel bearing on this. So let's go take a look. Okay, so we're sitting here by the right front wheel, and I got the leads of this all mixed up. I tell you what, this feels so weird to be using this instead of my regular meter. Anyway, so we've got our meter from our tool video. If you guys missed it, that code reader that I was just using, for those of you who wonder why I'm using a little cheap handheld code reader and why I'm using a Harbor Freight meter, I got a video that walks through why I have these, and I'll link that here so you guys can go check it out. But we're going to use this, and we're going to diagnose this vehicle, and we're going to verify that this wheel bearing is bad. But before we do that, I want to show you. Listen carefully. You guys hear it? Yeah, I heard it too. Listen real close. And I can tell you 100% right now, this wheel bearing is bad. Now, what I am going to be looking at is if the wheel speed sensor is part of the wheel bearing or not. I don't usually work on any specific vehicle enough to remember. There's some I remember, that they definitely are. But I think these probably are, but not 100%. So I'm gonna look here to try to verify and make sure, because if we have a plane flying over, what is that? No, personal jet. Anyway, if we have a wheel speed sensor that's part of the wheel bearing, this 100% makes sense and it fits. But if we have a wheel speed sensor that is separate from the wheel bearing, then we need to figure out if we need both a wheel bearing and a wheel speed sensor, or if we have a sensor that what can happen sometimes is, because the sensors work on like a tone ring and they have a magnet in them. What happens is that magnetic field that's right there is supposed to help it sense the tone ring and create a little pattern for the computer to interpret. If this wheel bearing starts to eat itself up and throw out shavings, those shavings can go and get caught up on the front of that magnet, right on the front of the sensor, in between it and the tone wheel, and then it doesn't ever see a change. It doesn't ever relay a speed because it doesn't see a change, because it's messing with the way that sensor works, because the front is all filled up with gunk, or not gunk, but chunks of ferrous metal. So that's what we're going to check to verify, to know what we're putting on and what all it's going to need. But that's a bad wheel bearing. So let's look at this sensor, and we're going to use this meter to do it. And for those of you worried about my health and safety, yes, it is on jack stands. It is fully supported, so I'm not going to die. We're going to turn this, and we're going to see if we can get access. Here is that sensor wire. Comes out of here. Now, I can't see. It doesn't look like that wire is broken. It goes up into the engine compartment. We may go into the engine compartment, under the hood, and see if we can find where that plugs in, because I just want to do check. Guys, if your wheel does that, it's bad. It's bad. But like I said, my thought is going to be more along the lines of, this is probably going to be part of that sensor, or part of that wheel bearing, because it all happened at the same time. They said the light came on, the truck stopped, it wouldn't move forward, so if this wheel bearing is what's holding this truck up, which is not super common, usually they'll start to make noise, they'll get worse, they'll get worse, they'll get worse, and then finally someone comes in and gets it looked at. Usually they don't go bad, but it's not unheard of. I've seen them before. They get bad, they get, chunks of it start to break up in there, and when you try to turn it, it wedges itself, and either it stops the vehicle or it breaks it up into bigger or smaller chunks, and the next big chunk will get in there and get caught up. But like I said, it's not uncommon. I know it seems weird that a wheel bearing would bring the vehicle to a complete stop, but like I said, I think it's going to be part of the wheel bearing assembly, just because it all happened at the exact same time. I could be wrong, but let's go up here and see if we can find the end of that connector. Okay, so up here under the hood, I started kind of wide so you can just kind of see for reference where this is at. This is the air cleaner, and we'll zoom in, and this is the connector that is coming up. This is the side that goes down to the wheel speed sensor, and this is the vehicle harness side. Now, what you do is this tab right here on this side right here pushes down, and then it unplugs. And this is where you got to know what kind of sensor you're working on. Unlike a lot of the older ones, you would ohm check this, and it's like 1,000 ohms, somewhere in there, 1,100 ohms, something. But they have new sensors, and I don't know offhand what kind this is, but the new digital or active sensors, the way they work is the harness side will feed 12 volts and feed 12 volts and a ground to the sensor, and then instead of the sensor generating AC voltage, it actually alters on a very low milliamp scale, alters the amperage through it. So what we're going to do, just to know what kind of sensor we're working with, we're going to take this and we're going to have to kind of pop it up. It's got these little push tabs that are fun. Sorry. Those that just kind of go down in those holes, because we want to get access to the face of this. And what we're going to do is we're going to take our meter, we're going to turn it on. Let me zoom out so you get a better shot here real quick. Okay, so we're going to turn this to the 20 volt scale for this is DC volts, this would be AC volts. We're going to go to the 20 volt scale for DC volts, because if this is that kind of sensor, we will anticipate seeing 12 volts or thereabout on it. So we'll see. Can we keep this in shot? I bet you I can. And then we're going to take this, the leads. Oh goodness, look at that. We're going to take the leads. Now, you don't want to shove these down inside there. All you got to do is make contact. But we're going to go turn the key on real quick. Key's on. You can you see this here? You're not gonna want to take these down and shove them inside those holes very far. You just want to make contact with the metal there. And there's a purple and then a lighter color. We're just going to kind of take guess. If we get it right, it'll show a positive. If this is that style, if we get it right, we'll show a positive voltage. If we get it backwards, we'll show a negative voltage. So let's just touch these in here. There, like I said, they're literally just touching. It's just fun to try to hold it there and look at the meter. What do we got? Oh, what is that? 11.15 volts. Okay. Yep. So let's zoom out here a little bit. So what we verified there is that the way I would check some of these older ones just to verify that there was no signal is you can ohm check them and look for that ohm specification. Try to look up what it is, or you can actually get on the connector on the wheel speed sensor side here, like hook onto those pins, and that's where you'd ohm check it. But then you switch over to AC voltage, you'd spin the wheel, and this would generate AC voltage, though this is not that kind of sensor. This is a different kind of sensor. So that is not the way we're going to be able to test this. So let's talk about how we're going to test from this point forward. Okay, I know at this point there's a number of you watching this that are screaming at me, just put a wheel bearing on it already. You're right. We're going to put a wheel bearing on it. That's a given. So what I looked up and I found out was, yes, in fact, the default way you can get these wheel bearings has the wheel speed sensor included. So that is what we're going to do. But there is another check, one last test I want to do, and I think you need to do just to make sure that the system is intact and there's no other issues lurking in the wiring that you're going to miss or that you haven't found. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about what that test is real quick and what is actually going on with this vehicle and why it's acting the way it is, and then we're going to wrap up. So here's the deal, right? Here's what I think is happening. You've got your 2010 Explorer, and it's got 4 wheels, and I know super accurate representation here. So you have the ABS module that looks at these wheel speed sensors all the time, and what it's looking for is when you hit the gas, is a wheel slipping? When you hit the brake, is a wheel locking up sooner than any other wheel? And so what I think is happening is when you take off and you hit the gas, it is seeing this. There's no signal from this, but it's seeing its little amperage square wave. It's a horrible square wave. Is amperage square wave from here and from here. But it's looking at these 2 wheels and it's saying we're on the gas, this wheel is spinning, this wheel is not. This wheel must be slipping. So it turns on the ESC and it tries to slow down the vehicle. It'll apply the brake even and try to slow that wheel down. And I think that's why we're getting it where it lurches like it wants to stop and it won't move. In addition to that, we're going to look at the codes. Now, the code we have and its description is kind of important. It was, what was it? It was missing input, was it? Or signal? I forget. Yeah. Missing input or signal. Now, these systems are constantly monitoring the circuit to verify circuit integrity because they also have codes that they'll throw for circuit failure. So we got this code and not a circuit code. So what this tells me is that this module right here, we're going to do another fancy drawing. This ABS module is talking to this wheel bearing or wheel speed sensor, and we're not talking to it, but it's looking at it, and it's saying, what we got is it saying, okay, I see I have an intact circuit, but I don't have a signal. I'm not getting a signal when I think there should be a signal, because eventually it'll reach a point where it sees all 3 other wheels spinning at about the same speed, but this one with nothing. And it'll stop assuming that a wheel's slipping, and it'll say, okay, I got an input problem. I got nothing on this. So what we're looking at is these codes will set before those codes. Well, not set before. They will take precedence over it. If it has a circuit code, if it says, oh, I got a problem with the circuit, it's not going to say, oh, it's got a missing input, because if it's got a circuit problem, it doesn't care that it has no input. It knows it's not going to have an input. So what we know, and this is using the computer's diagnostic strategies to our advantage to help us check the system as quickly as we can. So what we know is we've got this code, which means looking at this system when it's plugged in, all of this the circuit is intact to the sensor, through the sensor, back to the module. So we know that that circuit, whether it's right, whatever, it is intact. It has a continuous stream. It's not broken. So if we look at the connector right here, say that's the connector, and we unplug it, we know this is getting replaced. Okay, that's going to be presumably good, but it's hard saying it anymore. So we're going to get a new wheel speed sensor, a new wheel bearing. And when we unplug it, this is going to go, it's going to be dead, it's going to have nothing coming back on here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go and unplug it, and we're going to clear the codes. So we're going to clear the codes, we're going to unplug it, and we're going to hopefully get a circuit code. Now, it could be, I think, circuit open, circuit high resistance, maybe a kind of circuit failure code is what we anticipate seeing. If we do this, if we go and we clear the codes and we unplug, we plug it back in, clear the codes, then with all the codes cleared and nothing in it, we unplug it and then turn it on and check the codes again. If we get a circuit failure code, that means that this was all intact previously and everything, and it sees that the circuit is open afterwards. I mean, you don't have to worry about these being shorted together. It won't have, we'll know that we're seeing that difference when we unplug it, going from complete circuit, no input, to a circuit failure. That will tell us that the wiring, everything is good, and when we put this wheel bearing on, it's going to fix the problem, the whole problem. So if we see that, we'll know this circuit's good, and we're putting this wheel bearing on is going to fix this vehicle and get this guy and his wife down the road, and they're going to be happy and they can go fishing. So let's go do that real quick, and then we'll wrap this video up. Okay, so I cleared the codes and I disconnected this so that, oh look, the beeping, so that we can start, have it completely reset. So I'm going to plug this in and I'll show you guys. Let me get it down here. So we're going to switch again. I try to make sure I keep it here to ABS. Yes. Yes, sorry. Okay, we clear the codes, we show vehicle on, no ABS DTCs are stored in the vehicle's computer, right? So we know it's clear, right? We haven't moved it, so it's not going to see anything funky. So let's go unplug it. So we're just going to reach down here and unplug it. So now let's go see if we set that code we were anticipating. Okay, hooking back up. Sorry about the beeping again. Go through the same process. Alright, switch over to the ABS system. Yep. What is, oh, look at that. C1145, 1 of 1, right front wheel speed sensor input circuit failure. That is exactly what we wanted to see. So, walking logically through this one more time just to recap, we saw that it saw the circuit was completed, we cleared that code, we unplugged it, and then we saw that it verified the circuit was broken. That means that everything on the harness side up to the computer, it's doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing. It's checking the circuit. It identified a problem. So we know right now that putting this wheel bearing on and putting because it comes with the sensor included, wheel bearing and sensor going on, we're going to fix this problem. And this truck is going to drive just fine after we put that wheel bearing on. So stay tuned for the next video where we go through the replacement procedure.